regulation of kidney occurs by the four means. The first one is myoregulation. Myoregulation is the one, and the next one is regulation by ADH. This mechanism is called as hormonal feedback mechanism. Hormonal feedback mechanism or a hormonal feedback method of control of kidney activity. So let's discuss initially about these two methods. Later we can discuss regarding the control by JG apparatus and as well as the atrial wall. So what happens during the control by the myoregulation here? Myo means, as we know that myo refers to the muscles, right? So how muscles help in the regulation of the kidney activity? Which part of the kidney's function will be controlled by means of muscular cells or muscular tissue? Yes, any idea regarding that one? See here, myoregulation that refers to the control or a regulation of blood flow. A regulation of blood flow into glomerulus. We know that one in the glomerulus only the glomerular filtration takes place. That leads to the formation of the filtrate, right? That filtrate will be having equal composition as that of the plasma extracellular proteins. So increase in the blood flow into the glomerulus, okay, that will be reduced, that will be regulated by means of the muscles which are the muscle cells which are present in the afferent arteriole. We know that glomerulus is made up of afferent network of the blood vessels from the afferent arteriole and then the efferent arteriole. So blood flow into that glomerulus is controlled by the muscle cells which are present in the afferent arteriole. So that is muscle cells in afferent arteriole. So they contract and resist to increased blood flow into glomerulus. So whenever there is a sudden increase in the blood flow into the glomerulus, in order to resist that increased blood flow, muscle cells of the afferent arteriole they contract. Means they reduce the diameter of the afferent arteriole so that they resist increased blood flow into the glomerulus. That is the one control. Opposite to that one, whenever there is a reduction in the blood flow into the glomerulus, these muscle cells undergo relaxation. So they increase the diameter of the afferent arteriole. And during reduced blood flow, afferent arteriole dilates or muscle cells of afferent arteriole they relaxes and increase diameter of it. Here it refers to afferent arteriole. So when it get contract means whenever there is a increased blood flow or the blood pressure increases to the glomerulus, pressure of the blood increases into the glomerulus means at the time they contract and resist that blood pressure or the blood flow. It resists and it maintains constant blood flow into the glomerulus. Whenever there is a decreased blood flow is there, in order to ensure the normal blood flow into the glomerulus, afferent arteriole becomes relaxed, so the diameter increases so that more blood flow occurring to the glomerulus. So by that it maintains a normal GFR value or normal glomerular filtration rate. So this regulation is being controlled by the muscle cells present in the afferent arteriole. So such a method of control is called as myoregulation. Myoregulation. Understood? Next is by ADH or the hormonal feedback mechanism. So there are certain sensory cells present in our body. What those are called as osmocytes. Osmocytes. Sensory cells which sense the changes in the body fluid volume or the balance of the body fluids and in the salts. Those are called as osmocytes. So sensory cells in the body such as osmocytes. So what is the function of these osmocytes? They sense changes in the body fluid volume or the osmotic pressure. That is, so whenever the body fluid volume decreases, so when body fluid volume decreases, means the amount of the fluid content as well as the salt content decreases in the body, then what happens? It activates osmocytes. So this leads to activation of osmocytes, means osmocytes get activated by sensing that change. Then they send signals to, so they send signals to which part? Hypothalamus. Hypothalamus comes under which system? Exocrine system or the endocrine system? Endocrine system, right? Whether it is a master gland or the master of master gland? Master of master gland. Which is the master gland present in our body? Pituitary gland. But the functions of the pituitary gland are under the control of hormones secreted by hypothalamus. So it is a master of master gland. So directly these osmocytes send signals to the hypothalamus. Means osmocytes send information to the CNS. From the CNS, the signals will reach the hypothalamus. Then what happens? This hypothalamus that synthesize. So hypothalamus, this releases or it secretes. So what hormone will be secreted? ADH. So what is the full form of ADH? Antidiuretic hormone. It is also called as vasopressin. So this vasopressin is released by, this one is released by, released through neurohypophysis of pituitary gland. Released by neurohypophysis of pituitary gland. So what is the function of this hormone now?
Blood pressure.
Yes. So such the ADH that increases absorption of water as well as sodium chloride from renal tubule or in renal tubules or in the parts of the renal tubule or the renal tube. Is it clear? So in PCT and DCT as well as the Henle's loop and collecting duct, there is the absorption of the water takes place, right? Particularly PCT, DCT and as well as the collecting duct. So absorption of water as well as the NaCl, that is sodium chloride, will be increased from the parts of the renal tubule that is required for raising the body fluid volume concentration or the body fluid volume level. Is it clear? So in previous class we have discussed that one. Selective reabsorption, where the selective reabsorption takes place? In PCT and then the DCT mainly, right? In DCT, conditional absorption of water and NaCl takes place, that is sodium and chloride ions will takes place, right? So the absorption of that NaCl and water will be increased from the DCT as well as PCT also. That is proximal convoluted tubule and distal convoluted tubule. By that it increases the body fluid volume level. And whenever the body fluid volume it reaches the maximum level than the normal one, then what happens? Here? So once the body fluid volume, so this increase in the absorption of water and NaCl in the renal tubule, so that causes, so what it causes here? So it increases absorption of water and NaCl, right? So this one leads to the increase in body fluid volume. So whenever there is an increase in the body fluid volume, then what happens? It send the negative feedback. To hypothalamus. It send the negative feedback to hypothalamus in order to stop the release of ADH or the vasopressin. So that completes the feedback mechanism. Osmocytes only sense the change in the body fluid volume, means increase in the body fluid volume. Those osmocytes again send the signals to the CNS. From the CNS, signals passes to the hypothalamus. Then hypothalamus stop synthesizing ADH, so that ADH released by the neurohypothesis stops, so that no further absorption of no increased absorption of water and NaCl takes place from the renal tubule. So in this way, the body fluid volume will be maintained in a balanced manner with the help of hormone, what is called as ADH, anti-diuretic hormone. Sensory cells which are present in our body, throughout the body they are present. What is their function? Their function is to observe or sense any changes in the body fluid volume. Okay. If it is decreased, then also they get activated and then send signals to CNS to control the hypothalamus for the release or the inhibition of release of the ADH. Either they cause the hypothalamus to release the ADH, or they regulate the hypothalamus not to release the ADH. Okay. So this mechanism is called as the hormonal feedback mechanism. Here means the increasing the body fluid volume concentration or maintenance of the body fluid volume concentration is being achieved through the hormone called as anti-diuretic hormone or the vasopressin. So only this method is called as hormonal feedback mechanism. So which endocrine gland is involved in the control of this body fluid volume concentration means? That is hypothalamus. Any doubt in this one? So these are the initial two methods of regulation of the kidney activities, and two more mechanisms includes from juxtaglomerular apparatus or the JG apparatus 1. Next one is by the heart valve. Before that, make a note of these points now. See, juxtaglomerular apparatus is made up of three types of cells, which is present at the point of contact of afferent and efferent arteriole with the DCT. That is distal convoluted tubule. So juxtaglomerular apparatus or JG apparatus is present at the point of contact of afferent and efferent arteriole, afferent as well as the efferent arteriole with DCT, that is distal convoluted tubule. In that particularly the cells of the epithelial cells of the DCT undergo modification. Those cells are called, modified cells are called as JG cells or the juxtaglomerular cells. So this particularly juxtaglomerular apparatus has three types of cells. So JGA, that is juxtaglomerular apparatus, contains three types of cells. So what are those three types of cells then? Number one, macula densa. Macula densa, the one type. And the second one is JG cells are juxtaglomerular cells. Juxtaglomerular cells is the another type. The next one is, yes, what will be the third type? Lassis cells are also called as mesangial cells are also called as Polkesen cells. These are also called as Polkesen cells. Yes, where do you find the presence of these cells now? Let us understand that with the help of the diagram. See, for example, this is what the glomerular apparatus. Say for example, this is an afferent arteriole and this is efferent arteriole. What of this one is Bowman's capsule, right? So this is what the DCT. Okay, so this is what the DCT or the distal convoluted tubule. So here the epithelial cells which are present in the DCT, so these are dense here, or more number of epithelial cells will be present at the point of contact with the afferent arteriole and then the efferent arteriole. So these epithelial cells are called as macula densa. These are called as macula densa. Epithelial cells are abundant in DCT at the point of contact with the afferent arteriole and efferent arteriole. So such cells are called as macula densa. One type of cell. That is what the first type of cell we have mentioned, right? Next is, so macula densa are nothing but these are epithelial cells of DCT at the point of contact with the afferent and efferent arteriole. Next is, so other than that one, see for example, this is what representing the afferent arteriole and this is what the efferent arteriole, right? JG cells means here there are certain cells which are present in afferent arteriole as well as the efferent arteriole at the point of contact with the DCT. So these cells are called as juxtaglomerular cells, JG cells. Juxtaglomerular cells. So what actually these juxtaglomerular cells are? What type of cells they are? Macula densa means they are epithelial cells. What about JG cells? Yes? So these JG cells are nothing but modified muscle cells of afferent and efferent arteriole. Afferent as well as the efferent arteriole. The modified muscle cells in the afferent arteriole and then the efferent arteriole at the point of contact with the DCT are only called as juxtaglomerular cells. So what type of cells the juxtaglomerular cells are? Modified muscular cells are the modified muscle cells of afferent and efferent arteriole. Next, what about mesangial cells or the Lassis cells or the Polkesen cells means here? So these are the specialized cells which are present Okay, at the angle between the DCT, afferent arteriole and efferent arteriole, these specialized cells are called as mesangial cells. These are also modified epithelial cells. So these are the three type of cells which are present at the JG apparatus. Now, so what is the role played by the JG apparatus in the regulation of the kidney activity? Means particularly, so it is being controlled by the hormone secreted by the JG cells. Yes, what is the hormone secreted by the JG cells? Renin. Spell it. RENIN. RENIN means? Yes, it is a proteolytic enzyme. Yes, correct. Noted this one. So whenever the NaCl reduces in the body fluid, whenever there is a low blood pressure or the glomerular filtration rate, next the less quantity of the extracellular fluid, that is low ECF. What happens? It activates juxtaglomerular cells of JG apparatus in the kidney. Then what happens? These JG cells, they release an hormone, what it is called as renin. That releases a hormone called as renin. So what is the function of this renin? Means it converts, this renin catalyzes the conversion of angiotensinogen, which is synthesized by, where it has got synthesized? Angiotensinogen. This one is synthesized and secreted by liver. This one is synthesized by the liver. So the angiotensinogen is substance that is synthesized by the liver, which get converted into angiotensin 1 by the hormone secreted by the JG cell, that is called as renin. Okay. Now what happens? This angiotensin is not functionally active at this state. It must get converted into angiotensin 2, and this angiotensin 2 vasoconstrictor. So which of the following is a powerful vasoconstrictor? Like that, separate questions will be asked in the NEET or CET. Identify the powerful vasoconstrictor is angiotensin 2, a direct line given in the NCERT. Okay. So conversion of angiotensin 1 to the angiotensin 2 is carried out by same renin or any other different thing is there, or different substance is there. What converts the angiotensin 1 into the angiotensin 2? Conversion of angiotensinogen into angiotensin 1 is carried out by renin. Yes, what about here? Any idea? Rashira? Don't know. Saurabh? Shweta? Lakshmi? ಯಾವ ಆರ್ಗನ್ ಇಂದ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತದೆ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ? Blood. Which organ is involved in the conversion of angiotensin into 1 into 2? No. Brain. Yes. Pancreas. Heart. Ella ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ ಆರ್ಗನ್ಸ್. So this is converted with the help of ACE. What do you mean by ACE? This is angiotensin 1 converting enzyme. What do you mean by ACE? That is angiotensin 1 converting enzyme. Acetyl alla ACE. Name ACE. Angiotensin 1 converting enzyme. This is the full form of that enzyme. Okay. ACE means angiotensin 1 converting enzyme. Angiotensin 1. A stands for angiotensin 1. C for converting. E for enzyme. Yes, this one is secreted by. This one is secreted from. So what secretes this enzyme? Which organ secretes this one? This ACE is secreted by lungs. This one is secreted from lungs. So how many organs are involved in the control of kidney activity here? Kidney itself, then is liver, then is lung. Okay. So heart, it comes later. So lung secretes the ACE, which converts angiotensin 1 into angiotensin 2, and angiotensin 2 acts as a powerful vasoconstrictor. So whenever there is a low BP or low blood pressure to the glomerulus, so that it reduces the glomerular filtration rate and glomerular blood pressure, and as well as low ECF, then only it get activated. So this angiotensin 2, now its functions are. So what are the functions here? What are the functions of this angiotensin 2? Yes, what are the functions of angiotensin 2? Yes, what it causes? How it increases?
By deposition.
ECF. So one, it increases thirst. It increases thirst. By increasing the body fluid volume, what happens? It increases the blood pressure also. So it increases thirst. Next, other than that one? How it increases blood flow or the blood pressure then? Yes, by constricting the blood pressures. Next, by constricting the blood vessels. That is what the main function of angiotensin 2, right? That it acts as a powerful vasoconstrictor, so that increases blood pressure. Next, other than that one? Other than that one? It also plays a very important role in controlling the adrenal cortex region in order to release. Okay, in order to release the hormone. What is that hormone? Aldosterone. So it also induce adrenal cortex to release aldosterone. So this aldosterone, this is responsible for increased absorption of sodium chloride as well as the water from the renal tubules. So this aldosterone is responsible for which increases water and sodium chloride, okay, absorption from the renal tubules. So by that it increases the ECF also, then blood pressure increases, as well as the NaCl quantity also increases in the body fluids. So as it involves renin, angiotensin and aldosterone for the maintenance of NaCl concentration in the body fluid, blood pressure of the body fluid, and body fluid volume, as well as the volume of extracellular fluids. This mechanism is called as ROS mechanism. Complete this mechanism is called as ROS. What do you mean by ROS? That is renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system. Any doubt in this control? So this is how the JG apparatus and the JG cells are involved in the regulation of kidney activities. See, increased blood flow or increased blood pressure by JG apparatus may cause damage to heart. So this increased blood pressure or increase in blood pressure is sensed by the sensory cells in the atrial wall. Then what happens? Which induces release of the hormone called as atrial natriuretic factor, which is abbreviated as ANF, okay, by atrial wall. So when this hormone is released, what is the function of this atrial natriuretic factor? Means this ANF, because it is a vasodilator. So ANF acts as vasodilator. And that causes dilation of blood vessels. So which decreases blood pressure. Further, that decreases blood pressure. So this is how the atrial natriuretic factor is opposite to the action of ROS system. So in this way, it is the opposite in action to JG cells or ROS system. Opposite in action to ROS system or the ROS mechanism. So this is what the control by the atrial natriuretic factor from the heart wall, particularly from the atrial wall. This hormone is secreted from atrial wall of the heart. So these are the 4 different means of control of the kidney activities. First one is myoregulation. Second one is by ADH. Third one is JG cells. And fourth one is by ANF. Any doubt in this one? So the next concept is micturition. So what do you mean by micturition? Means the micturition means the act of release of urine from urinary bladder that is only called as micturition. So why and when the micturition takes place means, so what is the capacity of the urinary bladder? Means it can hold normally 400 to 500 ml of urine. So when the amount of urine accumulated in the urinary bladder reaches 400 to 500 ml, so it starts sending signal to the CNS. The CNS send impulses to the muscles which are present in the urinary bladder as well as the opening of the urinary bladder. What is that? The sphincter of the urinary bladder. In order to undergo relaxation or the contraction. So which one undergoes contraction here? Urinary bladder undergoes contraction. What about its opening? That is the sphincter. sphincter relaxes. The sphincter relaxes. As a result of that one, urine will be flown out of that urinary bladder. Okay. So normally when 400 to 500 ml of urine get collected in urinary bladder, receptors in urinary bladder send signals to central nervous system. Then from the central nervous system, impulses are carried to urinary bladder, that is nothing but the smooth muscles of urinary bladder and the sphincter of urinary bladder to carry out release of urine. This release of urine is only called as micturition, right? So how the release of urine takes place means, we know that one urine gets stored in the urinary bladder. When its volume increases to up to 400 to 500 ml in the urinary bladder, stretch receptors present in the urinary bladder get activated, and then they send impulse as signal to the central nervous system. Then central nervous system in turn send impulses to the smooth muscles of the urinary bladder, and then sphincter present at the neck of the urinary bladder or opening of the urinary bladder, and it initiate or induce them to undergo changes. That is, smooth muscles of the urinary bladder, so they contracts, and sphincter of the urinary bladder relaxes. As a result of that one, as there is a simultaneous contraction in the urinary bladder, say for example, this is what the structure of the urinary bladder, right? So here will be the opening of the urinary bladder. Here sphincter is present. These sphincters, what happens? They relaxes. Sphincter relaxes. What happens to the smooth muscles of the urinary bladder or the wall of the urinary bladder? They undergo contraction. As a result of that one, so whatever the urine is stored in that one, it will be allowed to get released from that urinary bladder into the urethra. So signal for the contraction of the smooth muscles of the urinary bladder and relaxation of the sphincter, that comes from central nervous system. But in order to initiate that impulses to the urinary bladder and its sphincter, that impulse or that information is carried by the stretch receptors, or that signals are sent by stretch receptors of urinary bladder itself. So normally, how much ml of urine in the urinary bladder initiate the micturition reflex means 400 to 500 ml. But as we have the voluntary control of micturition reflex, okay, so this reflex is called as micturition reflex. So this reflex action is called as, so whatever the control, that is from stretch receptors to CNS to urinary bladder, in order to cause the micturition, this whole process, okay, is called as micturition. This whole control is called as micturition reflex. Okay, then what happens? As we have the voluntary control of the micturition reflex, we can hold up to 800 ml of urine in the urinary bladder. But as micturition micturition can also be controlled voluntarily. So we can hold 800 ml up to 800 ml of urine in urinary bladder. So when it reaches the 800 ml, what happens? Then it becomes irresistible and painful. So if exceeds 800 ml, okay, it becomes irresistible. The micturition becomes irresistible and painful and causes involuntary micturition reflex. Okay, so then the micturition will not be under the control of our willpower. It occurs involuntary. So when the micturition becomes involuntary, when the amount of urine stored in the urinary bladder exceeds 800 ml or it reaches the 800 ml. Up to 800 ml, it will be under our control. So when it exceeds the 800 ml means as it becomes irresistible and painful, the micturition reflex can be involuntary at the time. Understood? So this is what the process of or the act of release of the urine with the signals which are received by the urinary bladder muscles as well as the sphincter from the central nervous system. So this total nerve or the neural reflex causing the micturition is called as a micturition reflex. How much amount of urine is released per day by an healthy adult human individual? Yes, normally an healthy adult human releases the average of 1 to 1.5 liter of urine per year, right? Per day. It is per day. Any doubt in this one? So next is composition of urine. So urine contains majorly water. ಎಷ್ಟು ಇರುತ್ತೆ ವಾಟರ್ ಹಾಗಾದರೆ? How much water content will be present? Less 70%. 95% is water. In urine, 95% is water only. Then the salts which are present in the that urine is sodium chloride. So what that salt? NaCl. So it is representing only 2% of the urine. Yes, because not only the NaCl but different composition will be present. Concentrated or hypotonic to the blood plasma. That what is the composition of that urine means 95% of water is, but still it is hypotonic to the blood plasma. Hypotonic means salt concentration will be more. Hypertonic. Yes, salt concentration are more. Presence of 2% of NaCl and other components in the urine, that itself hypertonic to the blood plasma. Next, other than this one, urea will be present, that is 2.6%. 2.6% urea will be present. Next is uric acid. The uric acid is just 0.3%. Uric acid 0.3% of the trace amount will be present. Yes, other than this one, even other bodies, other substances will be present, and the other substances. So what are those other substances? Like sulfate. Okay, next is creatinine, sulfate, creatinine, and the other ions or the other substances will be present in the urine. So this is what the normal composition of the urine. Other than that, if some other substances are present or unusual substances are present in the urine, means for example glucose and as well as the ketone bodies that represent metabolic disorders. Okay. Other than that, there may also be the presence of the glucose in the urea and then ketone bodies in the urea. Ketone bodies in urea. What is the pH of urine? Yes, pH is 6.0. Then it is acidic or the base? Slightly acidic. Slightly basic. Less than 7 is called as acidic. More than 7 is basic. Exact 7 means neutral. Okay. So it is slightly acidic in nature. What about odor? Yes, odor. What do you mean odor? Odor is nothing but smell. Yes. The odor is aromatic. Okay. But it turns to pungent. Okay. Because of bacterial degradation of urea into ammonia. So the odor is aromatic. Aroma means smell. Here aromatic means like yes, because of the presence of the benzene compounds. Right? Benzene is aromatic ring, right? It contains aromatic ring. So aromatic and turns to pungent smell. Yes, what causes pungent smell of urine means due to bacterial degradation of urea into ammonia. That causes pungent smell to that urine. Yes, what about color? Yellowish. Okay, slightly yellowish. Slightly yellowish. Yes, this is yellowish because of the presence of a particular pigment. What that particular pigment is called as? Because of. Okay, this one is due to urochrome pigment. Urochrome pigment in urine. There will be a presence of pigment called as urochrome pigment. What about specific gravity? Specific gravity of urine. Chemistry specific gravity of chemical compounds or substance, right? Yes, what will be the specific gravity of the urine? So it is 1.0032 1.040. 1.0032 1.040 is the specific gravity of the urine. So this is what the normal composition of the urine. Any doubt in this one? So name the other organs which play a role in the excretion other than the kidney. So the role of other organs in excretion includes, what are the organs? Yes, first one is lungs. Okay, next is skin. Yes, next is tongue. Yeah, saliva. Salivary glands. Salivary glands. Next, that comes under skin. Okay, only this much. Lacrimal glands. Okay, next. Other than that, yes, liver is there. Next is small intestine. Small intestine also. Yes. So what is the role of lungs for the excretion? What it excretes usually? Okay, it helps in the excretion of lung expels or excretes. Okay, how much carbon dioxide per day? It expels carbon dioxide. Usually it is involved in the expel of the carbon dioxide, the excretion of the waste, metabolic waste in the form of gas, that is nothing but the carbon dioxide, right? So how much carbon dioxide is expelled by the lungs? Yes, not per day, it's per minute. Yes, 200 ml. 200 milliliters of carbon dioxide will be excreted out or expelled out by the lungs per minute. That is reserve volumes, right? And we know that one, each 100 ml of blood that carry 4 ml of carbon dioxide to the alveolar surface. Each 100 ml, right? So what is the cardiac output? What is the cardiac output? 5 liters. Means complete blood flows through the alveolar surface within 1 minute. Per minute, all 5 liters of blood carried through the alveolar surface, right? Means each 100 ml will expel or which carry the 4 ml of oxygen, means 4 ml of carbon dioxide, means what about the 5 liters? It is 200 ml, right? 200 ml. Next is, what about skin? So here, from the skin, the excretory products will be excreted in the form of sweat and then the sebum. Sweat and sebum. So here, sweat through the sweat glands and here sebum through sebaceous glands. So here sweat glands, they secrete or they produce sweat, and from the sebaceous gland, sebum. What the sweat contains then? So what is the composition of sweat? The sweat contains majorly the water. Next, salts such as sodium chloride. Next, small amount of nitrogenous waste, that is urea. Small amount of nitrogenous waste. Other than that, what else will be present in the sweat? The small content of even lactic acid will also be present. Lactic acid. That is what the composition of sweat. Okay. What about sebum? Sebum contains steroids. Sterols. Okay. Next, wax. Next, hydrocarbons and fatty acids. They will be excreted out in the form of sebum from the sebaceous glands. What is the major function of this sweat? Sweat not only helps in the excretion, but also it is secreted for giving cooling effect to the body surface. So this sweat gives cooling effect to body surface. Okay. What about sebum? Sebum, it makes the skin oily. It makes the skin surface oily. Next is salivary gland. Okay. So here, through the saliva, what we spit. So oftenly we spit saliva, right? So that saliva contains a small amount of nitrogenous waste. So from the salivary gland, the saliva contains small amount of nitrogenous waste. Yes, along with that one, and the ions such as, what is that one? Sodium ions and then the chloride ions. So remember the composition of the saliva. There is the presence of water and then carbohydrate splitting enzyme called as salivary amylase. Then antibacterial enzyme called as lysozyme. Along with that one, electrolytes such as the sodium, chloride, bicarbonates and other substances will be present in that one. So the sodium chloride in the form of ions and some small amount of nitrogenous waste will also be excreted out in the form of saliva. Okay, so only we spit often. Next, what about liver? What about liver? So it plays a major role in the conversion of ammonia into the urea by means of cycle called as ornithine cycle. So this liver which converts ammonia into urea by means of ornithine cycle or the urea cycle, or other name is Krebs-Hanslitt cycle. And also secretes or produces bile, right? This bile contains, what the bile contains here? It contains bile pigments such as, it contains bile pigments. Those bile pigments are yes, bilirubin and bilirubin and then the biliverdin. Next, salts are used in the emulsification of fat. Okay, but these are the waste here, right? Bilirubin and as well as the biliverdin. Along with that one, it also contains some steroidal hormones, excess steroidal hormones produced or steroidal substances. Other than that one, the excess cholesterol or the cholesterol containing substances, and yes, certain cholesterol along with the drugs. So they will be excreted in the form of bile into the digestive tract. From there it will be excreted in the form of fecal matter or along with the fecus. So that is what the role played by the liver in the excretion of the bile pigments, steroidal hormones, cholesterol and drugs. And it also play a very important role in conversion of ammonia into the urea. What about small intestine then? So what will be excreted by the small intestine? So it helps in the excretion of certain ions. What ions will be excreted here? Small intestine, it helps in the excretion of ions, or it excretes certain ions. What those ions? Say for example, magnesium ions are the iron ions, and as well as calcium ions into digestive tract. From there, these ions will combine with the undigested or unabsorbed food and excreted in the form of fecal matter. So this is what the role played by the small intestine. So small intestine helps in the excretion of excess ions. Those are majorly the magnesium ion, iron ions and then the calcium ions. Complete small intestine. There are three parts present in duodenum as well as the ileum and then the jejunum. Any doubt in this one? So this is regarding the composition of the urine and as well as the role of other organs in the excretion. So among the disorders, the uremia means here accumulation of, it is nothing but accumulation of urea in blood, that is only called as uremia. So this one leads to renal failure or failure of kidney. Renal failure or the kidney failure means kidneys become non-functional. Okay. Then next is the renal calculi. What do you mean by calculi? Nothing but these are called as kidney stones, commonly called as kidney stones. What exactly these stones are? These are the crystallized form of uric acid and then which oxalates? Which oxalates? So here the kidney stones, yes. So these are kidney stones are nothing but crystallized form of what those are? Uric acid. Okay. Then the oxalates like the calcium oxalate and then calcium phosphate and etc. So when they get crystallized, they remain they stuck in the kidney, and that condition is called as renal calculi or the kidney stones. So what these kidney stones causes? This renal calculi that causes intense pain in kidney. So such patients will suffer from the intense pain in the kidney. Yes? Kidney stone? Yeah, kya hota hai? Why it is? See, so when you are not drinking more amount of water, if the urea or the uric acid produced and some oxalates and then the calcium phosphate which has to be eliminated as excreted out of the body normally through the urine. So because of the less quantity or the scarcity of the water in the body, what happens? They get converted to crystallized form and they remain in the various parts of the kidney. They only form stones. So that it is more important to drink enough amount of water required by the body. Is it clear? Okay. Next, this is about the renal calculi. The next is regarding diabetes mellitus. Diabetes mellitus. What do you mean by diabetes mellitus? Yes. Yes. Only glucose? Glucose only sugar, right? Okay. It is nothing but presence of glucose as well as ketone bodies. Glucose as well as ketone bodies in urine. That condition is called as diabetes mellitus. Because of the presence of glucose here, glucose is sweet in taste, right? What is the sweet taste of that glucose? Sweet. Okay. So because of the sweet taste of the glucose only, the disorder is named as diabetes mellitus. Here, me means M-E. Me means, me refers to honey. That refers to honey. So only it is called as diabetes mellitus. That is insipidus means, what do you mean by diabetes insipidus? Excess loss of water, that is called as diabetes insipidus or diuresis. That is also called as diuresis. Because of lack of ADH hormone, diabetes insipidus is caused. But here, diabetes mellitus is representing a condition where the excess glucose and ketone bodies will be present in the urine. Okay. Next is, okay, why the excess glucose will be sent out of the body through the urine means. Then what is the normal amount of glucose to be present or retained or absorbed into our blood? Usually glucose is absorbed from the intestinal tract or the digestive tract into the bloodstream, right? So how much amount of glucose can retain in the blood? What is its threshold limit? That is called as threshold limit. What is the threshold limit of the glucose in the body? 3 gram. No. What do you mean by threshold limit means here? It is nothing but the amount of or the quantity of any substance to be absorbed into the blood. Beyond that value, it cannot be retained in the blood, and excess quantity of that substance should be released through the urine. That limit is called as a threshold limit. So The threshold pressure or threshold limit of glucose is what it may be? How much milligram per 100 ml of blood? Still blood sugar 150 ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಯ್ತು ಇನ್ನು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಯ್ತು. So it is 180 mg 180 milligram per 100 ml of blood. That is what the threshold pressure of glucose. This is what the highest threshold pressure means. Glucose is having a higher threshold pressure. Is it clear? Okay. So this is what regarding the diabetes mellitus. Then other disorders includes, yes, what are the other disorders? Next is, for example, uremia. What do you mean by uremia? The presence of urea in the blood. Like that, the presence of blood and RBC in urine, reverse condition. Hema. This is called as hematuria. Right? So what is that hematuria or hematuria means here? The presence of blood and RBC or blood or RBC in urine. Then such a condition is called as hematuria. That is called as hematuria. Okay. It may be the internal bleeding, or it may be the the bleeding of blood from the arteries or the blood vessels which are present in the nephrons. So because of that one, some amount of blood may get leaked into the Bowman's capsule, so that the blood will be present in the urine. Next, other than that one, pyuria. What do you mean by pyuria? Pyruvic acid. Why? That is ketonuria. Presence of ketone bodies is called as ketonuria, right? Pyuria means here nothing but here presence of pus or WBCs in urine. Then it is called as pyuria. Reason may be the bacterial infection. Due to bacterial infection, pus formation will take place because of infection, right? So infection to the any part of the excretory organs, okay, may lead to the formation of pus, and that pus will be, if it released into that urine means, or added into that urine means, that is called as pyuria. And again, the release of WBCs may be because of the any damages to the parts of the glomerulus. Pyuria? No. So here, now can you tell what do you mean by polyuria then? So polyuria means more frequent urination or increased frequency of urination is called as polyuria. More frequent urination or excess urination, that is called as polyuria. Next, what do you mean by anuria? Nothing but here the absence of urea in urine. Absence of urea in urine. Next is dysuria. What do you mean by dysuria? Painful urination. This is painful urination. So this painful urination is because of bacterial infection. Yes, due to bacterial infection. Can you name some bacteria which causes this painful urination? Yes, the example of bacteria. In second PU, we have gone through the sexually transmitted diseases, right? What is the first one in that one? AIDS. AIDS is viral disease. I am asking about bacteria. Hepatitis alla. Gonorrhea alla. Before that. Saurabh? Huh? First name? First letter ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಾ? ಓ ಅಂತ್ಯಾಕ್ಷರಿ ಆಡ್ತಿದ್ರೆ ನೀವು. So here. C. Clostridium tetania. Next letter ಹೇಳಿ ಇವಾಗ. Right? ನೋಡಿಲ್ಲ ನೀವು, ಕಾಣಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ಮೈಕ್ರೋಬ್ ಅದು. ಓಕೆ, ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ಕ್ಲಮೈಡೋಮೋನಾಸ್ ಟ್ರಾಕೋಮ್ಯಾಟಿಸ್ ದಟ್ ಕಾಸಸ್ ಕ್ಲಮೈಡಿಯಾ. The main symptom of that chlamydia is that nothing but urethritis. Nothing but urethritis. Mainly affect or infect the urethra region. That leads to ectopic pregnancy in females. If further it extends into the urinary. So what is that? Sorry. The part of the which part that is called as fundus region of which one? After the fallopian tubes. What is the next part? Isthmus. So female reproductive tract. Okay. Ovary to the fallopian tube. Fallopian tube to ampulla. What that reason is called? Infundibulum. Uterus. Okay, that is uterus. Okay, fine. So Chlamydomonas trachomatis is the one. Like that, one more is there. What is that? Next bacteria is Gonococcus. Gonococcus. Any doubt in this one? Okay. The remaining thing we will discuss in the next class. Okay. Any doubt in this one? Okay, fine. Regarding the hemodialysis and some more disorders, we will discuss in the next class. Thank you.